Well, hey there, everybody. So today we're going to work on those assigned exercises for Chapter 2. So I'm going to go ahead and get into it. And I'm using my template, but obviously you will not be. So I'm going to go ahead and delete off my title block. And there's some settings we should do here on our grid snap before we get going. So let's go ahead and talk about that. So this grid that you see, in the book it shows as being 1 inch from each square to the next. So that's where you're going to edit that here to be 1, and then make sure major line every is set to 1. If you don't, what'll happen is you'll have like subdivisions between the squares. It makes it harder to see. You're used to a typical Cartesian plane like in math, so it's easier to have this set to 1. And then make sure that display grid beyond limits is unchecked, because what you have usually when you start a new drawing is an infinite grid. In order to not have that, you want to just disable that. It makes things a lot easier for visualization, since you know clearly here's 0, 0 now. And since this is absolute coordinates, it's going to help a lot to have those right there readily available to see, you know, like the endings. So you've got 0, 0 here, you can count. It's this many over, this many up. So I'm going to start the line command, and it tells us the first point is 2, 1. So now I'm going to count from 0, 0 up and over however many to point 2. So we have 2 over and 5 up. All right, so then from 0 again, we've got from 0, 0, 7. And then 5. And then so the next one's going to be 7, 4. So then we have 4, 3. Oh, no, it's 4, 4. And you know, it would help if you had these written down ahead. I did not do that, so I'm having to kind of count as we go. But it's going to be over 1, 2, 3, down 1. Oh, I forget. Absolute coordinates, guys. Don't, you know, do from the last point to this point. Make sure you're always doing from 0, 0. So we've got 3, 3. Then we've got 4, 2. And then we've got 7, 2. It's going to be 7, 1. And then we're just going to go back to our original 2, 1 to close it out. So just like that, you've got your points. And yeah, from there, you need to go back and write down that list and make sure to turn that in as well. All right, so next we have exercise 2 on page 215, I guess, slash 216. Delete my template off. And let's see. So we're given a start point of 2, 1. So it's going to be relative coordinates. So first of all, let's test and see if relative coordinates are on. I'm not sure if I have these set or not. It's going to be from point 1, 5 over, 0 up. Yeah, so we're already on relative. So then from 2 to 3, it's going to be 0 over, 1 up. From 3 to 4, it'll be minus 1, 0. From 4 to 5, it'll be 0 minus 0.5 because you're going down a half unit. Then minus 1 and 0 to just go over. So then we have 0.5 minus 1, 0, minus 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 0, 0.5, 0, Did I do that right? Let's see. Nope. 0.5. Okay, so then we have 1, 0. 0 minus 0.5. 1, 0. 0, 1. We're going to do minus 5, 0. 0 minus 1. 1, 0. And then it's going to be down and over. So it's going to be minus 1, minus 1. Then we have 1, minus 1. And minus 1, 0. And if you've done this all in one motion, you should be able to hit C to close it. So, yeah, that one's going to be it for that. Make sure that you turn in the list of the coordinates as well. And again, I'm going to use my template for all of these, so you can just ignore this little part when I'm going in and deleting it at the start. So first things first, we're given a rectangle, and just like doing a line, you can do coordinates for a rectangle too. It requires 2 points, just like you would see in that little picture there. We're showing 2 blue dots. We have to choose 2 points. So I'm going to do 0, 0, and then 11 by 8.5. And if you're wondering how I'm doing these coordinates when I shift between them, it's just comma. So if I type in 1, I just hit comma 1 to do the next one. So just so you know. And then we are given our first point for this little shape at 3.5, 3.5. For some reason my keyboard's not working suddenly. Sorry about that. Okay, 3.5, 3.5. And then we are given a vertical line that we don't really have the value for yet. So what we're going to have to do is draw this slant right here. So immediately we know that it is an angle of 10 up and a length of 5. And obviously the 10 goes from, you have a 90-degree perpendicular angle, and then you've got 80. The complementary angle of that is going to be 10, because 10 plus 80 equals that 90. So I'm going to do a relative coordinate of at 10. Actually, I think it's length first. Yeah, at 5, and then I'm gonna do the angle symbol 10. Okay, and the at is relative. So if you have your snap setting on from earlier and you switch to relative, you want to actually have to do the at. But since I don't have it, I'm going to put it in every time. So then I'm just going to type in 0.5 because I've got my mouse pointed in the right direction. So then all I got to do is just specify a length. So this one's a little bit cheaty, but it's a little easier that way. Same here. I'm going to do 2.5 over, 0.5 up, 2.5 over again. And then doing a little math, we know that this is 0.5. Okay, so I had it on ortho mode. I'm going to put it back on polar. If you guys are unfamiliar, these options allow you to draw more simplistically. So if you have ortho on, it draws horizontal and vertical lines only, and polar lets you freely do it upon an angle. If you notice, there's like a little projection with an angle value. So make sure you've got polar on for this. And then we're going to do from here up. Well, let's see, what would that be? I believe it would still be up 10. But let's just see. Okay, so it should be at 5, angle 10. Oh, Lord no. Okay, so what we're going to have, okay, so I always forget this. It starts at 0, just like in math. As you spin, you hit 90, 180, and so on. So what we need is for it to be, 90 plus whatever to get there. I'm trying to think of how to go about that. It's been a while since I've done one of these, in all honesty. But it looks like it's probably about 160. No, 170. So yeah, what it is it turns out it's from 180 up 10 degrees. So now I can do that at 5 angle 170. And then we can just draw this line straight down and connect the dots. And then you could go through and dimension if you wanted, but it's not required at this point, so we won't bother. So next on, let's see, it looks like it's exercise 5 on page 28, 228. We have basically a triangle and a couple of circles. They're not too crazy. But we're given a coordinate start point for a circle. So at 6, 3 is our center. It's a diameter of 1.6. I goofed, so let me switch to that. 6, 3 and a diameter of 1.6. Okay, so from that point, we know that it's 4.5 over, so I'm going to put on ortho to make sure I don't mess up and type in a length of 4.5. And then I'm going to just copy this circle. You could draw the same circle over here if you want, but it's really easy to me just to grab it, hit copy, grab a move point, and click to the point you want it. So, okay, so from here, we're going to do a little more fun and do another relative coordinate. And again, you know, if you want to turn on relative instead of doing at, that's fine. I'm just going to keep it. So at a length of 4.5, angle 60. So then I'm just going to draw a line and connect the dot. We have another diameter circle up here of 0.8. And then this circle that goes in the middle, there's a little trick for that. Instead of trying to get it placed right, just choose tan, tan, tan circle. So what that does, looking at it, you choose 3 edges, and it'll actually make the circle in line, perfectly located, 0 effort. A lot of times people, you know, they waste too much time trying to get it just perfect when really they just aren't using the right command. So, so next we're going to go to page 239 and do chapter 2, exercise 6. And this one's a little more fun. You're kind of getting into a very basic representation of orthographic projection. If you've seen my videos, I talk a little bit about it, but we need to kind of dive more into it. But I'm going to turn on my snap for this one. It's really basic, but I'm going to try to at least touch on orthographic projection, even though you really don't need it in this case to draw this part correctly. I still would advise, you know, once you turn on your snap to get it to jump around like a peg, I would still prefer you turn on ortho so you don't have to worry too much. You're just choosing at which point to have it. And it does help to have half units sometimes, maybe not so much in this case. But we know it's 3 tall. Actually, here's the point for a half right now, 1.5 over. It's down 1.5. And it's over to here, like so. Pretty effortless. Okay, so let's do the next one. And it's going to be, so instead of going and trying to look at the book this time, I'm going to try to use this as much as I can. So if I go and hover over this edge, automatically you can see it aligns to it. You know, you can see, like, if I were to do the same thing right here, for instance, when I pull my mouse up, it shows this little dotted line. It projects where it'll be. Well, I'm going to do the same thing here and choose this edge. And then I'm going to look at the book, and it says it's too long. So then I'm going to kind of do the same thing here, moving my mouse to trace it and complete it. So now I can look here at this edge, pull my mouse up, click, pull it up, click. And that's kind of the concept of projection, really, is just trying not to do everything manually and just using what you're given. So I'm going to keep doing the same process. And technically you can project between this view and this view. We'll talk about that later because it takes a special line drawn across called a miter line. And I don't want to bog you down too much, but, you know, ideally starting out, you can kind of do this one mindlessly if you're using the edges to project around. And this one actually has a limits assignment to it. So what I'm going to do is now move this around to fit it. So it says leave a space of 3 to 5 units around the drawing for dimensioning and title block. So we have 1 here. So I'm going to go ahead and move it. If ortho's on, it's a little easier. But basically, you select everything, choose move, grab a base point. In this case, I'm just going to grab out in space because I'm just moving in a given length. I'm going to move it 2 over. and I'm going to move it. I'm going to move it 3 up. So now we've got 3 to 5 here and here. We have a little too small gap here and too big here. So what I'm going to do now is change my limits. And to answer the question you may be having, what are limits? Before I said uncheck so you can see the limits, but basically this is where your paper size is actually located. If you were to print it right now and you chose limits, this is what it would print, is this boundary. So you're basically defining a boundary. So just like a 2-point rectangle, if you were to draw, you would do one corner, the other corner. I'm going to do that and say 0, 0 is our first corner. And then I need to choose an area over here for the second corner. So I'm just going to kind of count up. So it's 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we'll do 13 wide. I'll go ahead and top it before I forget. Then we've got 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 12. So we want 3 on all around area. So I'll hit enter. My math was bad. So let's do that again. Type in limits. 0, 0. And then see, it already projects what the last time it was. So I'm going to say instead it's 13, 13. 13, 12 I meant. Okay, so we have 0, 0 and 14, 12. There we go. Yeah, so now you've got 3 all around, and you can adjust it pretty easily. So if you have issues like I did in that case, you can just go back and give it another shot. So we'll go ahead and jump on to exercise 7, which is on page 247. And this one's not too bad, actually. So all you got to do is just draw what it tells you. So I'm going to draw a line at 3, 3. And I'm going to do at 3, 0. At minus 1.53. At minus 1.5 minus 3. At 3, 5. At 3, 0. At minus 1.5 minus 3. And finally, at minus 1.5 comma 3. And there you go. So that's actually it for this one. Obviously it's hard to keep up with all the coordinates as you're going, but not too bad all in all. Okay, so up next, I believe we have exercise 8. We do. That's going to be on page 248. Okay. So this is the same deal. You're going to basically draw and supply the coordinates. This time, make sure to use relative, though. So let's see if we can't do this as we go. Our first coordinate, and actually let's go ahead and change this before we go in too far. Since it's relative, let's go into our dynamic input settings. Make this where you can see it. Put on relative. Okay, so then the first coordinate is going to be 3, 1. Because my units are already set to 1, make sure yours are as well, otherwise this whole thing will be blown out of proportions. Okay, so from this coordinate we just drew, we need to give the coordinates to get it over and up to that point. So I'm going to say I want it to go up 1 and over a half unit. So I'm going to say minus 0.5 because we're going to the left, and it's positive to the right, just like it would be positive up and negative down. So I'm going to do minus 0.5 comma 1. Then I'm going to go minus 1.5 comma 0 because we're not moving at all vertically. And then we'll go 0.5 comma 1. Then we will go minus 0.51. Then we're going to go up and over 1. We'll go over 1, up 0. We're going to go over 0.5 minus 2. Then we'll just go 1 over 0 up. Then we're going to go 0.5, 2, and then 1, 0. 1, minus 1. Then we're going to go minus 0.5, minus 1. Then we're going to go 0.5, minus 1. And then minus 1.5, 0. Minus 1, down 1. Actually, it was down 0.5. So if you mess up, just hit undo, Control Z. So where were we? 15 to 16. Okay, so we're going to go minus 1, minus 0.5. Down, minus 1. There we go. And then either you can click here. I think you can also hit close. Let's try hitting close. You can type in C. Yeah. See that? Just like that, it connected the dot for you. So make sure you have this drawn and your coordinate list is turned in as well. And then exercise 9. This one's quite the doozy. It's going to be on page 248 as well. I would say by far this one's the hardest in the chapter. It's the fish, I guess you would call it. So I'm going to go ahead and start a line at our first coordinate we're supplied, which is going to be 1, 1. And then when you're looking at a Cartesian plane, you've got 0, 90, 180, 270, and 360 or 0. So we're going to go straight up. So that's going to be 6.186 in length, angle 90. So then from this area, it's showing us a value that's 60 from here to here. So that means we need to take 90 and subtract that 60. And that's actually going to be 30. So I'm going to do an at 2, angle 30. But in this case, it's minus because we're going down. You could also do, the opposite of that and do 330. It's up to you. And then it shows the length is 2 again, because if you look at the bottom, the part's symmetric. So you're actually going to be looking for some of the values down there as well. So we got at 2, and then an angle of 10, because we're going up 10. And then we've got at 3, angle. And this one, you're basically taking 110 and subtracting it from 90. So we're going to have minus 20 or 340. Come on, you. All right, so then we've got a length of 3 because of the bottom value. And it's going to be actually, I'm wrong. It's going to be 2. Pretty easy to get lost here. Okay, so then it's at 2, and basically we're going down 45. So we can just do minus 45. And here's where it's going to get trickier. So before we've been playing off of 0, but we're going to start playing off of 180 since we're getting to this side. So we knew it was 45 down, but it's going to be 90 between the two, so it's going to be 45 down this way. So in essence, it's going to be 180 and then plus 45. So this one is going to be at 2, angle 225. Oh, I failed to hit the angle button. At 2, angle 225. And then we're given at 3. And this one is going to be an angle of 200 because we're basically going to be changing it by the 25. So we're just taking 225, subtracting it, getting 200. So then we've got at 2, angle. And this one we can actually cheat a little bit. If you look at the top, it was 10 earlier. So I can just say 180 minus 10. And then if you've done this all in one motion, instead of messing up like me, you could hit close to close it or type in C. I'm just going to actually go through and snap to that endpoint. And there you have it. So make sure you've got your list and you turn it in, as well as your drawing itself, the fish. So then we've got exercise 10, which is going to be on page 249. And this one again is going to be based on the grid. This time though, we don't have to do a ton of work, which is pretty cool. So make sure your grid has the spacing is 1 and half units for the actual snaps on that spacing. And let's just turn on the snap. And I'm just going to start drawing. It kind of looks like, you know, like the bottom row in this drawing is supposed to be a unit. But what I'm going to do is basically start, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 gaps, 1, 2, 3. I'm going to start right here. And that's going to be our little bottom corner. So then I'm just going to kind of quickly go through, especially if I have ortho on, I can draw pretty quickly here and make this little step shape. I did too many flats. Let's undo that one. Okay, so then we've got 2.5 over. So there's 2.5. I'm going to go up 2, over, up 1, and then over 3. And then I missed a little bit over here. I always like to go in one motion though. Okay, so now we're going to draw a circle using the radius command. I'll click the middle point here, and then I'll click the ends. And I can turn on the circle again and do the same and click here. So then all we're missing is the circle right here touching that ending. So just like that, we actually drew that one really quick. So then we'll do exercise 11. And we're going to do a rectangle again. 0, 0, 11, 8.5. And then we're not really given a starting point for this, so I'm just going to choose one, I believe. Let's make sure. Yeah, there's no point. So how about, it's going to be 5 tall. Let's do about right here. So 3, 3. If you're having problems locating it, you know, you can type in the actual value for it. I was just choosing to turn snap on. It's a little easier for me. So we've got a square size of 4.8, so I can just type in that value and connect the dot. Okay, so these circles, the way they're touching so perfectly is using tan, tan radius. So instead of tan, 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 you're going to choose 2 sides and then give a value. Okay, so I'm going to do this corner, and then it's a radius. So instead of doing one, I'm going to do a half. That way it doesn't double in size. So I'm going to do the same thing here. It'll be half of that diameter value. And then I'm given 2.4, so that's going to be 1.2. Do the same here. And if you look, it actually already suggests the previous value, so I can just hit enter. And then it's actually the same value again here. So just like that, we finished that one pretty quick. So let's go ahead and jump on to exercise 13. And it's going to employ the same grid drawing style as the last one we did before this. So I'm going to delete my template. Make sure your grid spacing again is set to 1. You got your display grid beyond limits unchecked, and you've got 1/2 inch for your snap. Go ahead and turn the snap on, and go ahead and turn on ortho while we're here. So then let's go from 1, 1, over 1, up 1, over 1, down 1, over 3, up, kind of repeating the same process pretty effortlessly, really. Then we're going to go up 4, and then over and up 1. And if you do have ortho on, now's the time to change it back to polar for a minute. You got to be careful. Sometimes it'll do its own projections. So really just double check and make sure it is at that, you know, grid line. It's very rare, but it can happen where it's being a little douchey. And I'm going to go ahead and finish this side so I don't have to do as much work here. Oh, but I drew my line in the wrong spot. Okay, so I'm going to do this. Put it back on polar for a minute, snap to that, and boom, there we go. So now we got the outside done. We can do a radius here, same here, and then we've got one here as well. So now we just got to do these little cutouts in the middle, and they're going to be a half unit down to start, but 3 wide, 1 unit tall, basically just like that. And then we're going to do the same thing over here. And you can kind of just do this one from memory if you paid enough attention while you were drawing that last one. But yeah, so there's that one. So next we've got exercise 14 on page 252. This one's going to be quite a bit bigger. If you notice, it actually says the distance between the dotted lines is 10 feet. Now, if you go in and try to do this immediately, type in feet instead of inches, it says error, invalid input. The reason for that is you have to change your units. So type in units, hit enter, and change it to engineering. So now when I go in here, I can put, instead of inches, 10 feet, and it'll change both. I'm going to do half of that here so we have good snap still, so we'll do 5 feet. And you know, our limits are way too small now because, you know, it's gigantic and this is less than 1 unit. That's okay. So we're going to start at the figurative 1, 1 again, but you know, I'll take that back. Let's change our limits. So looking at this, we're going to make it exactly like the books. We've got 9 wide, so we'll do 90 feet, comma, 70 feet tall. Oh crap, I did the wrong point first. Okay, limits. It's always 0, 0. "90 feet by 70 feet. Okay, so if you're having problems zooming out all the way, you can always do Z, enter, A, enter, but we're good now. So let's turn on our snap, and let's do from 1, 1 up. Let me put it on ortho again. So up 2, over 1, up 1, over, up, and then it's going to be 6 over. And then I'm going to draw those circles in a minute, so I'm just going to jump over and then do this little guy. And kind of finish it up. So now I'm going to do circles. And then we have a line from here. And if you're having issues with the snap here, where it's trying to pull from the middle, just move your mouse up and choose to go through here and trim. Or you can actually turn off object snap since you're working with this grid snap, and it'll let you do it without issues. So that would be the advisable way, but make sure you turn that back on. You can't do anything without that on. So then we can do our circle, and it's going to end here, so I need the center to be here. Yeah, and there you have that one. So then next, our final one, I believe, make sure. Yeah, our final one is going to be problem solving exercise 1. And it's honestly not as bad as the fish. The fish was way harder, I feel like. But so let's make a rectangle of 0, 0, 12 by 9. And we're not given a coordinate again, so I'm going to kind of ballpark it. And, you know, make sure your snaps are good to go. In this case they are, because I have a template, but I always try to remind you. So let's do about 3, 3 again. Seems like a good starting point usually. So we're given a square of 4.8. Now how do I know that? That's because the circle that it's tangent to is also 4.8. So, I could have drawn the circle first, and how about I do that just to kind of give you a different take. Okay, so I'm gonna do a diameter circle at 5, 5. And we'll do 4.8 diameter. Choose the same center point, 3.6. Same center point, 2.4. Okay, so there's a few ways to do the square, but as you can see, our snap doesn't really come in handy in this point. So what I can do is draw a line out and then use the TR inner combination to turn on trim and just let me free choose. I can trim off the excess. And I can go through and either draw another line or extend this or whatever. But it's kind of sloppy, honestly. There's really not a great way to go about it when you start with a circle other than just to draw these lines and basically extend them, whether it be to manually move it or use the opposite of trim and use extend, inner, choose it, let it go the other way, and then you go through and hit TR, inner to trim it. Not a great way. So now I can do extend again, inner, and trim it out. But then we're talking about a lot of commands at once. It's probably easier just to draw it, but basically because this is 4.8, this line also has to be 4.8 because it runs the length of the circle. So then I'm going to just draw like a little crosshair here like they have. And then I will do a circle of 0.6. And then instead of having to draw this over and over, I'm going to hit copy, choose that center point, and then choose where those lines meet at. Just click on each point and then hit escape. And there we go. There's that one. So that's going to be it. Thanks for watching, everybody.